So welcome back to Having the Crack. It's just me, Adam, and Dave today. Jack is being very domesticated. It's his first day in his new house, and I think he's yet to get Wi-Fi. Installed. Yeah. So he's currently in domestic bliss. But we started the chat as we mean to go on with Adam roasting Dave's choice of camera and angles.
No, he's trying to roast me, but so far I don't think any of it's been successful.
All I said,
as usual, it's been opaque and bewildering.
Let's give the listeners some context. All I said was this angle was very you, and you took that as like maybe in a negative way. I just said it is very you. I mean,
it's because historically, Adam, everything you say is negative.
And for anyone who's just listening rather than watching, so me and Adam are on laptops currently. I'm in like a prison setting in Stockholm, and Adam's on a very nice computer at his house, and Dave has gone for a different option, which is he's in his lovely garden on his phone, just sort of.
I think likewise, it was the best option. You know, I didn't want to do it from my bed. That feels a bit weird, and the living room's a bit.
It's dark. It's like, if you look at the screens, Tom looks like he's serving like a prison sentence.
Yeah, you 100% look like you're in jail.
Yeah, Tom looks like he's got a very naughty boy in like a private boarding school. I look like I'm living in fucking step 5 sort of living room. And Dave,
you look like you're working from home.
Yeah, exactly. And you, go on.
No, I was gonna say, if working from home is a porn. Like you look like you look like
porny,
yeah.
And then Dave, you just look like you're on the run because you're constantly looking around as if someone's going to come get you. You're like, I can only be on here for like 10 minutes, guys. You're as if someone's going to jump in.
No, I think that's just because I'm just easily distracted by everything around me.
Also, I love how you were like, I was like, this angle's very you, and you're like, what does that even mean? And it's like, look at your shirt. I've just noticed your fucking shirt. What is that? This is what I mean. It's very you. No one else would have that. That's not a normal thing to do. And yet,
of course, no one else would have it. Of course, no one else would have it. I made it myself. It would be impossible for anyone else to have this.
Somebody was a fan of your one of your t-shirts in a previous video. I think you should start doing merch.
I think so as well.
No, that would defeat the purpose of having custom shirts. I can't have anyone else have these things.
Well, you've got to sell out, Dave. This is not about integrity.
Well, I have several Will Hit t-shirts that are supposed to be on the way. I've designed for him. I can send files on here, can't I?
Here on the record.
Yeah, I think I can.
Yeah,
we won't on the record.
No. It won't be on the record. So Will Hit, the greatest comedian in London, Will Hit, and I mean that sincerely. He said that he wanted t-shirts made, and I was like, I'll make them for you. Would you want? And he wanted his Instagram on them, but he wanted a picture, and he sent me the picture that he wanted, and it was it's a real picture. It's incredible. It's Saddam Hussein and about 5 or 6 of his body doubles, most of them topless, riding in a speedboat, just like bombing it across a bay. And it's such an incredible picture. But the best bit about it is that they all look like they're having such a lovely day. Like it's not like a sort of formal picture. He's just enjoying a day out on the boat with 5 other guys that look exactly the same as him.
I think that's what our leaders are missing, to be honest, because Vladimir Putin's famous for being on, topless on horseback. Like I think we need Rishi doing that out of like a Punto or something.
Also, Rishi,
he'd have to do it on a pony, though, wouldn't he?
I was just going to say he's tiny. We'd get him on a gerbil or something. He'd be.
We get the angles right though. We get like a big zoom lens. We have him set from. We need to make him look bigger than he is.
I think it's a real sort of signifier as like the level of power that you have when you have body doubles.
Yes.
Yeah. It's such an extreme commitment from that person to be like, I'm going to be you for an untold number of years. I've got to look exactly like you.
Don't you think? Do you
that's
think
an incredible level of power?
Do you think that's a level of power, or do you think that's a level of vulnerability that they have to live in hiding. Because like American, I mean, recent presidents which haven't been assassinated, they don't need body doubles, even though arguably they'd probably be more targeted, but they just have better security. I feel like a body double is like, well, we don't trust ourselves, we'll just get a fake me out there.
Yeah, I agree with you. It kind of is, but I mean, like, you've got to be playing to a certain level that people would even be willing to do that for you.
Yeah, but
you can't just do that on money alone.
Yeah,
don't they force? I think there was this documentary about some guy was like posing for a dictator. He was like, I was forced to do this. Basically, I didn't even want to do this. They just said, hey, you kind of look like our leader. And then they like made him get his hair cut. They did some facial shit, and they were like, "You have to do this, otherwise we're going to kill you." And he was like,
"That's Stalin."
There's a movie, The Devil's Double.
Devil's Double.
What's that? Is that about a particular dictator?
It's about it was Uday Hussein. It was one of Saddam's kids. I think his eldest son. And they all had body doubles, and Uday had one. And there's a movie about, not a particularly great movie, but it's an interesting idea.
Yeah.
And I can't imagine any of them particularly enjoyed it.
Because I think go on.
This is quite interesting, and we can probably add it in post. Like, I think, who would be your body doubles or people who look like you? I've got someone who I've been told looks like me. I hate it because when I see it, I go, yeah, that is me.
Yeah.
It's a B-list actor who was in Saving Private Ryan. He was in Friends as a cameo. And
I know exactly who you mean, Seth.
Yes, I know the guy who you mean. What's his name?
Adam Goldberg.
Adam Goldberg. You do look exactly like him.
I know. Adam, you know what's so funny? I thought that the other day. I was looking at some clips. It's like, fucking Adam looks he looks loads like.
You've got the same name.
I know. Just he's got Goldberg. What's annoying is he's never really made it famous. He's never been good enough for me to make a reference to him in stand-up for the majority of the audience. There's always like 20 people like, that's exactly right, and then everyone else is like,
yeah, it's too niche, isn't it? He's a bit part player. Has he never really like been a lead? I don't think.
No, he's not. So, what about you guys? Who have you ever been told you look like anyone?
I've got one, but Dave, have you got one?
I mean, me and Mark Cram look vaguely similar, but we don't actually. I think it's just because. Yeah, I know, but I'm.
Me and my fucking neighbour look well similar. It's like, all right.
Well, I think Mark's a bit a step above just some random guy. You can at least Google him.
You can. Mine's it's similar to yours, Adam. It's kind of niche, but when someone sees it, like, fucking yes. There was a really, really famous actor in the 40s called Mickey Rooney.
Okay.
And he's like this little cherubic Irish with like a side part in, and he's like he's got dude, isn't it a dead ringer? Like, it's yeah. There's like a photo of him like this that's like on the internet. It's very famous, and as soon as anyone sees it, we're like, were you separated at birth? Or like, what has happened there? But it's the same as yours. It's like you have to explain who Mickey Rooney is.
Yeah, so funny.
It kills in retirement homes. Anyone over the age of 18 is like,
they know.
Absolutely, yeah.
Wow, that is funny.
But on the body doubles thing, I think on the dictators is interesting because I feel like, Dave, were you saying the Saddam Hussein ones, they all look like him? They're all very good doubles.
Yeah. They're pretty good doubles, yeah.
So like
you can tell which is the real one, but that's because he's driving the boat.
Yeah, exactly. He's the one giving the tests, yeah. Have you ever seen Stalin's body doubles?
I don't believe I have, no.
So it's the most Soviet thing in the world. So it's like there's one guy there's like 12 of them, and there's one guy who kind of looks like him, and the other 9 are just like guys in a wig. Like that, like they're the wrong height. Some of them don't have mustaches.
Wow.
And I was just thinking about how the Soviet Union had this constant thing of like trying to be important, but at the same time, like nothing really worked. Even down to the having to believe, like, I'll try and kill that one. He's the real Stalin, right? Yeah, I believe he's the real Stalin.
God, yeah. There's so much to unpack with that as well, with the Soviet Union never wanting to sort of admit their mistakes and stuff. And like, even like if you go back to, you know, the explosion in Chernobyl, the amount of cover up that there was around that, and they didn't even want anyone in the world to know that this has happened, and then they were downplaying it for ages, and you had this horrible situation where I think you had like because the governments in Germany and Switzerland, they detected particles in the air of radiation. They thought that was unsafe, so they were getting their children inside, and then the kids in Chernobyl, in Russia, they were just the union was just like, no, it's fine, let them out, do whatever, and it was oh yeah, so much.
Yeah. It's like what I sometimes feel that in corporate life, where you're like, I don't really know what level of reality you want me to operate on.
Oh my god!
Like I did a brief for a client recently. It's about female YouTube creators. That was the brief, to increase the number of female creators on YouTube. And the agency wouldn't proceed with the brief until we had a definition of the word female. So that was like,
okay.
and like everyone in the room sort of, we all knew what we meant, but we weren't allowed to proceed. We weren't allowed to proceed.
That's such a telling statement. We all knew what we meant.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I mean.
A very modern way of putting that. It's like everyone knows what you mean.
Yeah,
you're not able to actually say it.
Well, I told Adam this. I went for a freelance job literally after we had a chat last week. I had a phone interview, and this woman picks up the phone and goes, "Hi, my name's whatever her name was, and my pronouns are she, her. What about you?" And I was like, "Oh, I'm Tom." And she's like, "Yep." I was like, "I'm Tom. We're doing the interview now." She's like, "Yep." I was like, "I'm Thomas Henry. I'm interviewing for the strategy position." She's like, "Uh-huh." And then she went, "I don't know how to proceed here." And I thought it was like I'd done something wrong or my connection was faulty or something. And she's like,
Yeah.
What are your pronouns? I was, "Oh, they're what you'd expect. They're he, him." And then she went, "It's not as easy as that for everyone, Tom." And the interview ended about 34 seconds later.
Oh, Jesus
Really?
Christ.
Yeah.
How did they end the interview? Like, did they literally just say this isn't going to work and then cut it off?
She just said, "So you got some good experience. We will let you know if we need you." And that was it.
That fucking quickly.
Yeah, as quickly as that. Yeah, and I was like, I wasn't trying to be a dick. I wasn't trying to make a stand. I literally just didn't understand. I didn't know what she wanted from me.
No, the irony there, Tom, is you weren't trying to be a dick, but they were. Because they 100% knew what you were doing. 100%. They're looking at what is. I mean, look, we're not going to get into this fucking like difficult situation here, but like, you're a man. It's not that complicated. She knew exactly what you meant.
Yeah,
she's the one that's being a dick.
Yeah.
Do you know what that is? That's like that reminds me of that's like someone getting upset. Like, you know, when you've developed a secret handshake with someone, or the way you greet someone, you go, "We all do this, this, this," and then she's got it and be like, "Well, this is the people I surround myself with. We all do this handshake. That's how we all greet, or maybe we bow or whatever." And you've gone, "I'm not from that world, or I'm not from your bubble." Yeah. And then you just gone, "You don't know. This is what we do." Like, that's like.
Do you know what? Do you know what the funny thing is? If she was talking to someone from an Arab nation, she would never do that.
No, because she wouldn't have presumed the handshake. Oh, but also, like, if she had said, "My pronouns are this. What are your pronouns?" I would have just said, he, him, and moved on with the conversation. And I wouldn't have been like, "Oh, we shouldn't have to answer that." I would have just proceeded with the conversation. It was just that, like you said, Dave, she had this weird level of reality where she was trying to make sure I had the secret handshake down. And I didn't know the handshake was. I didn't know we were shaking hands.
Yeah, that's weird. But you know what? She's done you a favor, dude. Because like, if that's how they are on the beginning.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking. Like, you don't want to fucking work for people that are going to be doing that.
No, that's what I said to Adam. I was like, I'm glad, because after a while, I think one of the things about doing comedy and sort of keeping a day job going is your comic self bleeds into your day job self.
Yeah.
And you can like keep a lid on it for a while, but if that kind of shit. And I'm not even like you said, Dave. It's not about the politics of like which side you stand on. It's just when people are asking you to do unreasonable things, the comic bit of you is like, "This is weird. This is funny. This is. You guys must see this is strange."
Yeah.
It's like, I wouldn't even say that's the comic bit. I'd say that's just a reasonable bit. I'd say like any reasonable person would be like, "No, you're being the arsehole here. I'm not doing anything wrong." Like, if they'd been open with you and said, like you say, like just go, "Oh, what are your pronouns?" Then you'd be the dick if you're the one throwing it back at them. But if they're just expecting you to know these like unwritten rules about the shit that they completely made up themselves, then they're the ones that being an arsehole.
Yeah,
but they'll never realise that. It doesn't matter.
I would have. I think there was an opportunity there, Tom, to outwoke them. That's what I would have done.
Yes.
Really?
Yeah, if they ask me what are your pronouns, I'd be like, I don't actually know. I think I'm at a place in my life where I'm beyond pronouns and labels, and the fact that
Oh
you
no, even better than that. That's not the move.
That would
That's
have
not
been
the
great.
move. That's not the move. Absolutely, that's not the move. Then if you're in that situation, they go, "What are your pronouns?" You just say they them. Fuck with them.
No, because then they'll just go, okay, and then they move on. That's all they say.
Yeah, no, exactly. But then you've just called them on it, and you've completely gotten out of it.
Yeah, I
Because
think
if you just say he, him after that, then they're like, oh, it's just a cis white man. But if you say even he, they, then they're like, oh fuck, now I can't.
No,
I would do something that would make them question and be like, oh, am I? Do I have a different? Maybe my level of understanding is underdeveloped.
Same he, they. It would fuck with them completely. But they wouldn't know how to handle it.
Yeah, I think in either scenario, you can get them going like, oh, am I the baddie again? Have I become the baddie?
That's it. Yeah.
You're like, yes, you have. You've not taken into account my journey towards acceptance.
Yeah, I mean, and then I'd go into my like ethnic makeup and be like, and what's yours?
Yeah.
And how does that reflect? And then just make the whole interview about that. And then at the end, they go, well, we've run out of time. Like, well, I just wanted to make sure you were comfortable. Now,
totally, because like it's always, and I'm not going to give her name away, obviously, but like it was like Kimberly Smothington Smythe, like from Oxford, from Cambridge, and you could have you could have quite easily pop that around on them.
It's just so funny. I've got this new bit that I'm working on, which is when they say how much money you want to earn, and I just want to earn enough money where my children feel comfortable enough to question. Okay, that's it. Because I feel like if you end up having kids and you don't earn enough money, and your kids can't worry about these things, you fail. Parents paying their bills, and then what about heating and cost of living? You've actually failed. If they're so comfortable when they go they can question all these things, and they have the time to ponder these things, you've actually done very well in life, and that's the level I want to get to. So,
that's great. I love that angle. Has that been working? Because I think that's great.
It depends on the audience, to be honest.
That's one of those ones where you look at them and you're like, not today.
That's funny.
We'll do dating app stuff today. This is not for them.
I think there's just an inherent truth in that, though, isn't there? I just feel like it's and maybe there's an angle to be like, we should have working class people, or people who are struggling to get by. They show you the houses that are struggling to heat their homes. Yeah, we should put those questions first, and that's the main issue. Like, that'd
be an amazing sketch. That like right. someone's going to a food back, being like, yes, before we give you the food, just want to clarify, how do you feel? Yeah. Sorry. Is it? We can't proceed here. Is it, madam, sir? Can we just make sure?
Yeah, and he's like, can I just get some food? I'm starving. He goes, well, we need to. It's not easy for everyone, is it?
No. You don't understand. You need to prioritize this first. You're not getting this. Sir, madam, indiscriminate person.
Yeah.
That's a great angle, Adam. That's fantastic. We had that Dave. That thing you just described happened last night. Last night, me and Ram did a Swedish show.
Mm-hmm.
We were the only two English acts, and Ram was the first English act on, and he stood next to me. And Ram's got all this like material about the Indian caste system and stuff, and he just turned to me and went, "Bro, these look like the wrong kind of whites. I'm not gonna try." It's like, these are straightforward whites. I need to talk about.
As in, like, if he told those jokes or we talked about that material, they'd be like, "No, a caste system makes sense."
Yeah. Or like, I think that was like, so I made that when I got on stage, because all we'd heard is Swedish comics. So when you're watching other people on the lineup, you're like, oh, you get a sense of the crowd, right? So you get a sense of like, oh, they like this kind of stuff, they don't like that kind of stuff. It's all in Swedish. So the first thing I said when I went on stage was like, as far as we know, you guys have been laughing at like Hitler jokes. You guys have been laughing. As far as we know, you guys have been like, Mein Kampf was a good thing.
Yeah, we don't even know. We'll just clip that out separately, by the way, just for Tom.
Mein Kampf with this fist as well.
No context.
My pronouns are they, them, and Mein Kampf was right.
That's the pod.
Just snip those two things together.
So how did that go? If everyone else has been speaking Swedish and then you go up and speaking English, I mean, obviously they all understand English very well because they're well-educated Swedish people. But how did that shift go?
So I think you just have to like take it very head on. I think I'd done it once before on a Danish show, and I think you just have to be like quite aggressive about like we're switching into English and give them a minute to like retune because I mean, do you guys speak other languages? Any other languages?
No, we're very uncultured. I'm speaking for myself. Also
no, year 9 French is about as far as I went, and that was long time ago.
Well, even when you go to like Glasgow or Newcastle or like Liverpool, it takes you a second to like.
It is another language.
Yeah, they are different and should be kept separate. Yeah,
I can't understand a fucking word they're saying.
Yeah, morons is what we're saying. Clip that. So please have us on, Adam Rowe. It takes you a second, so I think you've got to give them that breathing space.
Yeah.
To like just tune in to A, it's a different language, and then B, you've got me and then Ram, and we have different English accents, and different idioms, different vernacular, and you got to give them a second to like grapple with all that. But once I think if you help them with that, then it's okay.
You know what? I think the idea of giving them a minute just to adjust to the English, to sort of get used to listening to something in maybe a secondary language, that's really interesting. And another thing that because I've definitely done gigs where there is other languages. I've done like French gigs where it's like a mix of English and French. And I even did some Greek gigs where it was English and Greek. And what's really funny though, what I found is even though when I can't understand the language, I can still know where the beats are and where the punchlines.
Yeah,
it's amazing. You just know through tone, and he's saying something like in one language, and he does like a little trill at the end. He goes, I'm like, oh, that was the bit, and then everyone starts laughing. But it's still.
But you also get that. You also get that when it's all English language speaking, but you have a number of tourists in, and you know from having spoken to them in the show that they don't speak English very well, but they will still laugh along with everyone else just because the rhythm's there, and they'll just fill in the blanks, or they'll just laugh because it's what's socially expected.
Yeah. I once saw a guy at an open mic in New York. He literally just did his whole 4 minutes was just da 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 ba da 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 ba da da ba ba ba, and the first 30 seconds was weird. By the third minute, people were laughing.
Wow.
Just off rhythm. But what you were saying there, Adam, the guy went before Ram, Swedish, like he was the last Swedish comic, and he was funny, and I knew he was funny, and he was getting good laughs, but I actually figured out what his material was, which is strange how comics can cheat into it. So like he was doing a bit about cocaine and a bit about looking like a police officer.
Right.
And I asked him afterwards, is that what you were doing? And he was like, yeah. And it's so wild that when you write jokes yourself, you're like, oh, this is kind of makes sense.
Because it allows you to stop like actions and stuff like that.
Yeah, actions. I heard like I saw him do that, which is like, oh, give away.
Yeah.
But then like he was doing this thing with his glasses on and off and like staring at the crowd. And I was like, oh, I bet what he's saying is he looks like the guy buying the coke and the guy busting him.
Right.
For the coke without the glasses. And that was like his whole shtick.
I like the idea you're watching it and you're like, I can tell you're a hack even if it's a different language.
David,
not that guy specifically. I'm just saying in general.
In general.
There's something to be said though about the physical humor when it's done well, about it being universal, because like for example, you take Rowan Atkinson, and you think about some of the favorite bits of Rowan Atkinson. Now in the UK, we might just say we like Blackadder, we like some of his old sketches, we like some of the other stuff that he's done, and it's like, but universally by far, Mr. Bean is the biggest, and it's so funny. Here, it's big over here, and it's purely because he doesn't speak, he doesn't make any noises, and it's all awkward humor, it's interactions, and it's physical humor probably at some of its best, and that's universal. And there's something to be said about that. That's why it's so powerful. And picking something that's a bit more current. What's the name? There's a guy, a black guy on TikTok who's really big called Kobe Lane, I think his name. And basically, he just used to do reactions to like weird like life hacks. Like somebody do a weird life hack, and he'd just go, "That's not how you do it. This is how you do it." But he did it without saying anything. And he's like, I think he's like the biggest guy on TikTok, and now he's got sponsorships with Hugo Boss. And it's funny and it's universal, and he's done it all without language. And you think that would be a hindrance, but it's actually he's the biggest guy.
Yeah. Because like you said, Dave, like what we're tuning into really is like rhythm, timing, intention, and kind of like the words are an extra element of all that. But the thing you're really locking into, I mean, I'm sure you guys have done this where you've maybe fumbled a bit sometimes, but you're so in a good rhythm, it doesn't matter. Like you still get a big
It's like equally you can say things that like if you write it down don't really make sense, but it'll still work because the rhythm. But then that's a problem because and then if you ever want to record it, once it's recorded, people can look at it and go, "That doesn't make any fucking sense."
It's there's something to be said about, especially in live, communicating a joke through energy as well. You know, in terms of like. If you take it back, you go, that doesn't make sense. But in the moment, it did, and everybody knew what you meant, and that's really powerful. Yeah,
that's where like Jack is absent today. I think that's like one of his biggest superpowers, that he has that like control of his energy and like puts them where he wants them to be. Like, because you can always tell when Jack's relaxed because he gets his little teapot out.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, I don't know what you're fucking thinking, but like, so like when
you know, like when Jack does his like crouch, he doesn't do it all the time, but sometimes like usually when it's a drunker audience, he'll crouch down a bit.
Yeah,
like he'll just kind of squat a little bit, and if the audience is really drunk, he's basically just like Slavic squatting on the floor.
Yeah,
like, I remember watching it one time from the back of the room, and I could only see the top of his head because he was crouched down so low, and I'm like, man, these guys are hammered.
No, that's quite funny because that's like
it's like a breathalyzer for the audience.
That's what I was thinking.
If you saw a guy outside who was drunk outside a nightclub and you needed to speak to him, you would squat next and be like, "Are you okay?" So he's doing that to drunk audience.
It's kind of almost that. He's like, "I've got to bring it right down to your level."
Yeah, gotta meet them where they are. Meet them where they are, down there in the muck. Right, we got. Go ahead. No, go ahead.
I was just to finish off that other bit. Like, I just think I love all that stuff when it comes to controlling rooms because they say like, especially let's say you go to you do a loud room or rowdy room. The last thing you want to do is start competing them by shouting. What you actually do is you quiet down and you start speaking quite solemnly, and then they're realizing, oh, we can't hear what this guy's saying, and they all shut up and they listen to you, and that's quite an interesting technique because your natural response might be to shout over them, but then it just adds to the chaos. So it's like by draining the energy away from the audience when they're being too rowdy, they're not focusing. Like I find those techniques really interesting.
Yeah, because that what you described that works in like life. That works in any context, like a fight with a girlfriend or like a presentation, like all those things still hold up because it's like you say, you're really just locking into how a group of humans will go like, huh? What did you say? Yeah. Quiet. I remember like we once did like a corporate training thing and like quiet power talking was like one of the things they it's very American. They're like, you gotta close that 1 foot gap. Get them to come in. That sounds a bit like a Me Too, but you could, yes, I guess, try it. I guess. Yeah. Right, we got 8 minutes left on the clock. David, did you want to talk about that? What was that Twitter thing you sent around? It looked really funny.
Oh, I just thought it was wild. Like I just saw it on Twitter the other day, and it's a clip of, I don't know what the TV show is, but it's a clip of I think it's early noughties TV show in the UK. Right. And it's I guess it's like a sort of a docu-series about fat people, and looking at their lives, but in the most disrespectful way.
Yeah.
And it made me. I mean, I just thought it was hilarious. Also, it was brilliant because Horatio Gold and the other lad that I can never remember the name of did that sketch like years ago. They've done a series of them where it's like mental British TV documentary series opening lines where they're just we're here to meet Britain's greasiest man or just shit like that. It's so weird watching the real video of a guy actually doing those intros, and you're like, it's actually more mental than Horatio was managing to do it.
Because it's the glee.
Horatio's ones are actually toned down a bit.
They
Also, just that wasn't that long ago. I guess it was quite a while ago now, probably, isn't it? Like, I don't know, 15 years ago, maybe now. Yeah. Quite a while ago. But it doesn't feel that long ago. And visually, it doesn't look that long ago. But the way that they're talking about fat people is just insane. It's just like, to meet a couple of elephants in Birmingham. Let's see how they got so fat. It's so disrespectful.
You know what it is, though? Because I mean, I'm a bit torn with this. Because obviously, yes, it seems wild watching it back to go, oh, yeah, you would never hear that today. No. But then I also think, for the most part, and I could be wrong, but some of the shows, because I used to watch those shows because when you were a kid, like the ones you watched are, especially when it's like daytime TV or whatever it is, the ones you'd watch are people who are fat or embarrassing bodies, just something that is just like a modern, like, oh, it's interesting, right? And
it's a freak show.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was trying to avoid using that.
No, but that's what it is. I mean, it kind of it does them a disservice to not describe it. That's what they're
billing it as. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure the majority of those shows, the reason why I guess it was seen as okay, you've got a few things in the mix here. You've got, first of all, British culture, which is like cheeky, saying all this sort of shit. We're always saying that's an integral in our culture, right? Calling someone and not having too much malice, calling someone a fatty, and normally to their faces they're like, yeah, we are, yeah. Second of all, you've got the idea that this is being fat, at least back then, wasn't considered an immutable characteristic. If somebody was overweight or obese, it was usually by their own doing and something they could probably undo. So it wasn't necessarily seen as discrimination back then. And the third angle is for this show, I don't know why I'm defending this fucking show, but the third angle was the fact that in the majority of these shows, they'd be going there to help them. And so it'd be like, oh, it's okay, we can call you this and this and this, because at the end of the show, we're going to get you on a diet plan that's going to help this. It wasn't just like, you're fat, haha. It was more like, we're going to help you out and all that sort of stuff. Yeah. So those are the angles. So I think in isolation, it does seem mad, but it wasn't. I don't think it's as simple as pointing at them and going, haha, you're fat. I think it was more all that. Those three things were mixed in, and they were normally done in the room. And yeah, I guess it says something about British culture that we were more comfortable laughing at ourselves back then. And I think that would be inexcusable today.
Yeah, I think the thing you hit on about it was a mutable characteristic, not an immutable one.
Yes.
I think that's interesting across a whole host of like social issues. They're like, oh, my anxiety defines me, my ADHD defines me, my weight defines me, which is funny because if you ever do like therapy or if you ever like just Google or look at like self-help or self-development, they always say like you don't have anxiety, you're a person who suffers from anxiety. Like not the way of getting your mind out of it. Like you're not a depressed person, you're a person who suffers from depression. And that was always seen as like a healthier way of dealing with these issues rather than like, no, I am this thing.
Well, you're absolutely right there, Tom. I think it's like, and there's people today that still don't fit in with that category. So they'll go, I don't care. Yeah, I am fat, and like, do shame me, like whether it's Ricky Gervais or something, or you get a lot of people who are quite big or quite fat and they lose all the weight and they feel like they've got license to say, yeah, I was a fat piece of shit and this is this because they've got through that motion. It's very interesting. And then there's also this language about somebody, I think was it Lad Bible, put up a post of saying this guy suffers from cerebral palsy, and he goes, I'm not suffering, I'm doing a fucking marathon, I'm living with it. And it's like there's differences in how people because like some people they do feel like it consumes and everything else, and other people go, and like for example, that's the reason why the Paralympics I think is so important, because it shows there's a lot of people, like if any of us were like, you see people in wheelchairs like or having limbs removed, and that would be seen as debilitating, and then these are the except few who go, fuck that, I'm going to show that beyond all doubt and beyond all reason, I'm going to excel in this thing just because I want to, and to prove that it can be done. And that's very important. That you're like, maybe there's an avenue to go, maybe not in the same level as the Paralympics, but maybe there's like a subcategory which is like, and now we've just got a bunch of anxious people like doing the 100-meter sprint. They've all done fine.
Mate,
okay.
I think you've just found $1 million TV idea, because you wouldn't, maybe not with the sprint, but getting an anxious person to get over there. I mean, that's why Queer Eye for the Straight Guy works so well, and it's such a powerful, because it's not really about, it's really about people rehabilitating their lives is really what it's about. So I reckon because what's that Hemingway quote? Courage is feel like being scared and continuing, but that's the real definition of courage. Like if you got an anxious person, because like you said, someone who's lost their limbs is competing 100 meters is way more impressive than some. So if you've got an anxious person to, I don't know, do stand-up comedy for the first time, that would be like, what an amazing bit of bravery and achievement that is.
I think as well with it, I think there's levels in terms of, there's people that you'll probably, if anyone watches this and gets offended, they'll probably be like, well, they'll pick the one person. My sister brother suffers from anxiety, and then they had a stroke because of it. So it's like, well, no, let's accept the fact that it, especially with anxiety, it seems to be diluted to the sense that everyone's getting caused. Whereas, like you said, if someone's missing a limb or they have something physical, that's very measurable and it's very definite. Whereas with anxiety and some of the other things, like maybe I have people who've not been diagnosed as ADHD saying I'm ADHD, I'm OCD, this, and it's like you're not. You probably have characteristics, and there probably is a mild spectrum where you're on it, but like I think that it takes away from the people who might actually be suffering it, because it's almost cool now to say, by the way, I'm not just a cis person.
Yeah, I've got.
What was it? The South Park did it best. It was like, I'm this, and victim. Whereas people who are actually suffering from it will be like, I'm not a victim. Fuck off. Like, that's.
I am victim is gonna be the name of the episode title, by the way. We've established the theme of the pod this week. I am victim, and more importantly, I am Thomas Henry Comedy on all platforms. Adam Coumas, where can people find you?
You can find me on YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram at Adam Coumas. And Dave?
At David Anthony Comedy, at Will Hit Comedy. He's the king.
And
at
please, most importantly, Will Hit. And also, please follow comedian Jack Hester. You'll find him on Instagram and YouTube if you search that. And wish him all the best on his house move, because very big step moving in with his missus. And I'm sure he'll be having a great big house party for us all very soon, which will be
great.
Yeah, all the listeners are invited. Obviously, we will post his full address. So
we're going to dox him. We're going to dox him.
Yeah, exactly.
We're going to give his real name out.
yeah, exactly. Do you know what? That can be a great ongoing bit for people. Just want people to start commenting what they think Jack's real name is. That'd be.
I think I reckon it'd be quite easy to find out with a bit of googling.
Okay, Archibald.
I think he's got some articles written in his actual name.
Right, Archibald. Start with the word Archibald, everybody. So this has been another episode of Having the Craic, live from a prison cell in Stockholm, and Dave's wonderful outdoor garden, and Adam's soon to be well-used porn couch.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.
We'll see you next week, guys.
I'm in Telford, Shropshire, and I'm about to meet one of the fattest families I've met in my life. I'm here in the Peak District and about to meet two right massive fatty siblings who are at the peak of their porkiness. I'm going to be meeting some right beach blubber bellies. I'm in Luton, Bedfordshire, and about to meet three right jelly-bellied jumbos. Too much time sat on their fat bums, that's their problem.